Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I'll be your mindset coach today. On Wednesdays and Fridays, we're going to be switching it up and we're going to be bringing you more coaches, more people, and we're going to have more interviews coming your way. So Mondays are going to be a day for the blogs. Wednesdays and Fridays are going to be a day for having a guest on and having some in-depth conversation, because we talked about episodes 1 through 100 primarily talking about mindset. And though there's so much more to talk about, we want to talk about, all right, what's next in a conversation, more so than I know everything about mindset. And then we start to ask the right questions. Because when we ask the right questions, then we can get the right answers. And many people, they are afraid to ask the questions. So that is why I'm bringing on other coaches to come on, ask questions, and to have that conversation. And I want you to be a part of that conversation too. I don't want you just to listen, comment, like, share with people, join my Facebook page, and then have that conversation. If we say something that you agree with, talk about it. If we say something you don't agree with, talk about it, right? We are trying to have that conversation. We're trying to build that art of communication back. And today we're going to have Dr. Heather Tucker, and she's going to be helping us with what she does, of course, but then talking about how we as people can overcome ourselves and then get into a better state of mind. Here's that interview. Welcome, Dr. Heather Tucker, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Michael. Thanks for having me here.
So I know we had some scheduling mishaps, but we finally got you on air, and I'm excited because we're going to be talking about what you do with your coaching and how you help people get to a better life.
So I'm Dr. Heather Tucker. I work with entrepreneurs who want to achieve success in business and life harmony, because it really is two sides of the same coin. I have a professional training and coaching company. I work with entrepreneurs, especially coaches, so that they can really reclaim their power, charge with their worth, increase their confidence, get out there and share their message. It's really interesting because there's so much wisdom within us that needs to be shared with the world. Yet sometimes things can get in the way of actually expressing that fear or uncertainty or doubt. And you talk a lot about mindset, and mindset is amazing because our mind is the central processing unit of our whole body. And I talk about the mindset and the heart piece, because when we actually have a healed heart and a renewed mind and they're working on one accord, we literally become unstoppable in what we're doing. I also have a mastermind, an Aloha mastermind, a family for coaches and practitioners. My whole motto is no coach left behind. Just getting the message out there, being able to help people get peace with their story. So therefore they can be able to powerfully express themselves, share their story, share their message, and literally make the impact and influence that they're called to make in the world.
I wanted to touch base with you on that heart connection, right? So we have our mind connection, we have a heart connection. Can we talk about the differences between the two, and if there is the similarities?
A lot of times we tend to make decisions based out of our mind. And one of the best ways to make sure that we're making fully the right decisions is to always check in with our heart. A lot of times we focus on like the mindset, the mental component, our thoughts. Well, our thoughts, what we think and what we feel is what we do. And sometimes we can be able to like disregard the feeling part. Sometimes it might be too painful. This is one of the reasons why I talk with my clients and my students about being able to understand and process your emotions. We can't control the things that are happening, but we can control how we respond. And our greatest power is in our response with emotional intelligence. You know, Michael, I grew up where children are seen and not heard. You speak when spoken to, you come when called. You know, my parents would always say the one thing that no one ever could take away from you is what you know. That's why it's so important to be able to build up your education and your mindset. But what was missing from that and was really the emotional intelligence piece. You know, my mom would say, put your feelings in your pocket and keep going. And a lot of that was based off of trauma, you know, generational trauma, residual trauma from family, where you couldn't really hold on or dwell on the things that were happening. But when we stuff our feelings down, when we stuff our emotions down, they don't go anywhere. They actually come and manifest in our body and mess up our health, or they may make us have like a lot of negative emotions and lash out at people. And not understanding that emotional piece can actually make or break your success, more so than the thoughts. So it's really powerful in being able to understand and heal those heart wounds, have the deep level connections with people, because the reality is heart wounds can create blind spot. And sometimes we can get so caught up in our head that we disregard or we block our own blessings that we're called to have. So when we have both of those pieces, like you ever said or ever thought like, my mind says this and my heart says this, or part of me feels this way and the other part of me feels this way. Those are all conflicts. Those are all conflicts. And when we resolve those conflicts and we operate out of a place of wholeness, that's when we're in the flow. That's when there's no longer the suffering or the struggle or having to work hard. That's where the ease and grace comes in. Mm-hmm. So again, a lot of times it's natural to kind of stuff down or neglect the heart or neglect the emotions because sometimes it's too painful to feel. Mm-hmm. Where this a lot comes from, though, Michael, is that, again, you remember I mentioned how, I would focus more on the mental side of my mind as compared to the emotional side for quite some time. But I'm married to a husband. My husband is a Marine Corps veteran, Purple Heart. He did 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he came back with post-traumatic stress. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disease, it really is not a disorder. It's just a different way of how the brain works. It is all about emotions. It can be triggers. It can be intense situations and not know what's going on. But our emotions are energy in motion. So when I was able to understand, okay, where are these triggers coming from? Where are the patterns coming from? How is it triggering even the things within me? It's almost like with this type of stuff where he has his PTSD, I have my own PTSD from childhood trauma. It can be this fight or flight, come together or run away. Well, the reality is it's about being able to come together and seeing a communication at a deeper level beyond what is just seen. Mm-hmm. It's like really being able to tap into the empathy of what's unseen. One of the things that I see so much in the world right now is these miscommunications. So many actions based on emotions that people don't even know how to process. And then they overreact. And all of a sudden they don't know what's happening. Like people can even, have you ever overreacted and you like see yourself overreacting, but you don't know how to stop it? It's like automatic. Well, a lot of that has to do with sometimes unresolved emotions. So I talk about celebrate your overreactions because that gives you something to work on. When there's emotional wisdom with honoring both sides of the brain, then things just flow, like I said before. So yes, it is, they go hand in hand, and a lot of times people might operate in one or the other. When you bring them together, that's where our greatest power comes in and our strength comes in.
Trauma is one of those things where everyone is going to experience something. There's not going to be someone who's going to come unscathed from childhood, from adulthood. They're going to have some type of challenge, some type of adversity that they have to overcome. And it can be that the kid at school didn't pass them a crayon. It can be different for them. Just because it might seem small or remedial to us, to them, it can mean the world. And many people don't understand that trauma is going to be specific to that person because everything they have been learning, their childhood, the development, teens, adulthood, is going to be the determination if something affects them. For example, if you are rich, silver spoon in your mouth, you might have everything in the world, all the material goods. You can ask mom, dad, I want this, I want that, and you get it. Now, somewhere down the line, you don't get what you want. That's a trauma initially because you have been getting everything, but now you have a challenge. You have an opportunity to grow or to complain. And it is easier to complain than to grow and to understand that situation. As a kid, especially when I was growing up, we go to the grocery store, we see something we like. I want this, I want this. Guess what? Mom, dad, grandma, they say no, right? We have to deal with that, right? That's going to be dealing with our emotions. And many people choose not to deal with their emotions. Many people would rather just sweep it under a rug and hope it never comes out. But that's not how emotions work. Eventually, they pile up, and before you know it, everything that you have swept up is beginning to rot, and now it's seeping into the rest of your life. And you have a bunch of negativity, you have a bunch of trauma that you have to deal with. But where do we begin? It's just so much. It's like we have this mound of trauma. Where can people begin to start to address their childhood trauma, whether they had trauma in schools and high school, college, bullying, professors who treated them poorly? It can be anything. Where can someone begin at any stage of their life to deal with trauma?
I'm so glad that you asked that. And I'm also so glad that you highlighted that there are different people have different responses. They have different internal representations of the things that happen. And it defines their experience based on what is going on with them. And everyone is different. Two people can have the same experience and then have two different perceptions of what happens. So one of the things that I would really highlight is to first recognize, like a question people ask me, well, how do you even know that you have this trauma? First of all, let's talk about your mindset or even your behaviors. Are there unwanted behaviors that you have? A lot of times the fear, that part about where it's safer to avoid the emotion than it is to actually go and face it. In Hawaiian culture, they talk about you face everything and rise so you can rise and then eventually get to the point where you can feel everything and relax. And what happens is if we don't heal what hurt us, we will unconsciously or even consciously bleed onto other people who don't deserve it. Are there any overreactions? Are there behaviors where you're so triggered? The first thing to all change is awareness, right? Start being aware of how you're responding to things. And so that first will let you know that something might be deeper. Unwanted behaviors, trying to stuff down pain, or even blaming people. So that it's almost like that victim mindset. Oh my gosh, everything is happening to me. For some people, they may feel like they have no control of their life when they're in that victim mindset. And it's understandable. So that's one of the things I want to let people know. It is understandable for us to sometimes automatically get that way based on the things that we experience. But when we have, first of all, awareness of it, that's when we can start peeling back the ravel on the layers to figuring out, okay, where did things possibly go wrong? Like if you would have asked me, Michael, like maybe 10 years ago when I was in the prime of my career and I was doing quite well in the government world, how was my childhood? I'm like, oh, it was so good. Yeah, it's so cool. And then, of course, these things were happening. I'm like, okay, well, let me go back to figure out why my mind is conflicted. If there's sometimes this conflict of who we are and how we show up in the world, that might be an indicator that there is something that we want to be able to go deeper in, if that makes sense. Then go on the journey to figure out, like, it is possible. A lot of times people think it's not possible, but it is possible to heal the past, to live more in the present, to have a bigger vision of the future. When you go back, sometimes like it might be painful even to look back there, but that's why you don't want to go the battle alone. You may want to have some support, an amazing coach or a practitioner who knows about the mind, or even therapy. People will do that too. And there's a place for all of that. So many different support systems, because having someone on the journey with you, helping you release and unravel those things as they come up and still be in the present is so powerful. It will always show up in our behaviors and also our relationships. So our relationships are a reflection of what's going on within us. And it's so interesting because right now there's been, especially in this pandemic, there's been so many difficulties with relationships. Everything kind of collided. Our business world, our personal world, families, it all just came to a head. So it's where we had to really face the things that are going on. But the power of our relationship, that if we're triggered, our most intimate relationships can actually trigger us the most. And sometimes that's actually a beautiful thing, because it actually causes us to be like, okay, well, what is it within me that's triggered? Again, this is where that emotional power, that strength comes in. When we can't control the things that are happening with other people, we can't control how we respond. But then there also might be something that's going on with the other person that might even be unresolved within you. and vice versa. It's just the nature of the beast. So how can you be able to start going and unraveling these patterns? First of all, like one thing I want to encourage people is let them know that for some people, those who had major oppression or major significant emotional events or major things that happen, what we go through, we can grow through, but those might also be lessons that actually can help us support people who may be going through those same things. And maybe those are things that we've been able to overcome. And so our lessons are not just necessarily for us, but for the people that we're called to be serving. So like I would always sometimes tell my students, the greater the burden, sometimes your greater your calling might be, even though it may suck in the valley and the depths of it. But on the other side, there's so much glory that your story can impact other people. So that helps people pull through from that victim mindset. It's possible to change your mindset from a victim mindset, from a wounded heart with trust issues, to a victorious one, a victorious mindset where you're operating in this place of, okay, I may have gone through some crazy things. Well, now I know that some of these crazy things, these are the reasons, these are the lessons for them. How can I be able to use that for the betterment of my good? Like that's one of the reasons why I love coaching, because we don't have to have a great past to have a great future. We can recreate and restore ourselves each and every day. And the beautiful thing about coaching, it doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, what's happened. There's something that you can be able to utilize to be able to guide people in their transformations, especially when you've gotten on the other side. Every finger that we're pointing at. So that's another thing. Are we blaming? Are we blaming and complaining? I like to call it BMW. I won't say the word, but B word, moaning and whining. If we're doing a lot of that, if we're pointing fingers at everybody else, that's also an indication that there's something going on. Because as there's each finger that we point out, there's like 3 pointing back at us. And you think about it, like these common themes, like people may have, oh my gosh, I've had all these difficult relationships and I feel like they're just horrible. Or I've had all these different careers and I feel like they're horrible. Well, what is the common denominator of all of those situations? It's you. So when you change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at can totally change. And the power is in your hands.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I make people aware of is the option. They have the option to see the world for what they want to see it as. And they have the option to be more than they are than right now, right? So tomorrow they can be better than they were yesterday. However, many people are afraid. Many people see tomorrow and they say, I don't know if I can show up. And that stops them from pushing themselves, keeps them in complacency, and keeps them in their comfort zone. Those people who are battling that lesser self, that person who's saying you can't be victorious, they're saying you're going to fail, you're going to fall, you're not going to be anything more than what you are right now. Your mom was right, your dad was right, your grandma was right, your friends are right, your teachers are right. And they all said that you're not going to be anything in your life. And that's the whole business concept of Reven Concepts, is those limiting beliefs that were placed in our head. People have to deal with that. And every single day, the subconscious mind is going to come in and it's going to try to kick your butt. And it's going to say, hey, I don't know if we can do this. And you might believe it because it might be a high energy task. And the brain naturally shies away from high energy tasks. Why do you think people don't go to the gym? Why do you think people don't go after big promotions? Why do you think people don't have healthy relationships? It's because they're not willing to put in the work, because it's a high energy task. So we do have to shift our mind to start to see these tasks as better opportunities rather than the high energy task, what it is. And it just comes down to fear, the fear of failure. Many people are going to be uncertain about if they do something and it doesn't surmount to anything, did I just waste my time? No, right? We are making progress, right? We're making headway to a better life. And it's not going to be a perfect road. It's not going to be a perfect journey where everything's a success and everything goes our way. We're going to have those hiccups. We're going to have those failures. And we're going to have those lessons that teach us the best lessons that we'll ever get in our life. And that's failure. When dealing with your clients and coaches that you're training, how often would you say failure keeps them from success?
2 things. The part that you were talking about, fear. So fear is the biggest thing that will rob us from our actual total success in all areas of life. It's not only just, what I come across is not just fear of failure, but also fear of success. Like they'll be like, well, what if I do this? Oh my gosh, what will I lose? Right? So much fear of the future. I tell them, let's look at what fear means, right? Let's redefine fear, because what happens is fear will create your perfectionism, your paralysis, procrastination that leads to poverty, that just leads to this whole like spiral down. So most people see fear, and fear, we were never given a spirit of fear. A lot of times fear was cultivated based on the things that we've gone through, right? It can create this intense fear. Fear stands for several things. Most people know it as false evidence appearing real. I like to say most people live in it as forgetting everything and running. It's too hard to continue on. That part that you were talking about of these things that prevent us from moving forward, that fear, it actually will derail us. It'll prevent us from living our calling, which actually makes it even more conflicted to our soul, which actually makes us feel even more sucky about ourselves and stuff like, so it perpetuates all of these limiting beliefs that maybe other people have put on you and stuff like that. When we face everything and rise, we will get to the point ultimately where we can feel everything and relax. And so knowing that it's a transition with this profession, yes, there's a lot of fear. And then also I help them, I tell them, look at how you view failure. Because a lot of times we think when we fail, oh my gosh, we suck. Like, I'm not good enough. Who am I doing this? All these limiting beliefs, I call them mind monkeys. They come into our place. One of the presuppositions of our communication mastery certification is that there is no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. See, when we're in this journey of entrepreneurship, or when we're in this journey of our health, or when we're in this journey of successful relationships, et cetera, whatever the journey is, there's going to be times where we're going to feel like, oh my gosh, we failed. And then that puts it into the energy. Like, again, we suck. It's not even necessarily as much about a mindset as it is about the energy that we carry with that, right? So changing a failure to feedback. What did I learn? Okay, we did it this way, it didn't work out. What did we learn? What feedback did we get? How do we want to do it differently? How can we be able to shift it? See, that's one of the reasons why we have about 95% of businesses failing within the first couple of years. That's one of the reasons, like even in my marriage, which we're doing so awesome, we actually only have a 5% success rate. Well, we figure out what happens, how to be able to make it better. Okay, what was the lesson? Moving forward, so many people give up like right before they reach the goal. Or so many people, like they feel so defeated that they don't even want to take the energy into actually moving forward. And I understand that too. But what is the cost of things staying the same? If we continue to run the same patterns, if we continue to have these self-defeating prophecies about ourselves, and I also tell them too, so one of the things I hear is, oh my gosh, Dr. Heather, there's so many coaches out there. And I'm like, the only competition is the one that you create. You're in a league of your own. It's important to own your uniqueness and unleash your greatness and pay attention to, it's like staying focused. Are you going to focus on listening to the voices that telling you that you can't do it and let those consume your voice and become your voice? Are you going to pay attention to maybe what God said that you are, how you're fearfully and wonderfully made? Your price is worth far more than rubies. Are you going to focus on the people who are feeding into your soul? Or are you going to focus on the people who want to be the negative Nellies? It's so easy because we don't attract what we want as much as we attract what we are. So when you start changing your mindset and you start empowering yourself, like I'm sure, Michael, probably on this journey, doing this amazing work that you're doing, right? That there were probably people who were like, what the heck are you doing? Like you can't do this. You listening to, no, I have this calling. I have this power, right? Me too. Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many of my family members were like, you just need to go back to the government. What the heck are you doing? But then when I see the testimonials and the transformations and the families and organizations that are being healed as a result of the work that I'm doing, I'm like, you know what? I can hear you all day long, but all that is just noise. So know that the visions that we were giving and the calling that we were given for our life, we're going to have those, what I love to call obstacles. We're going to have the people in our family or our friends that want to kind of keep us safe and want us not to be able to, just to fit in. But there's no reason in fitting in. Why try to fit in when we were born to stand out? Each person has the ability to unleash the wisdom within them and make a prosperous life for themselves and families, a legacy. And it's my desire for everyone to know that, those that are even oppressed. You had asked about what led me to starting this company. It literally was the Trayvon Martin situation. I was 20 minutes from where that happened. And I was in this permanent 6-figure cushy job. And all I could see was, you know what? This was the age of my nephew. And my desire, I see it continuing to happen. What can I do to make a difference and make an impact so that doesn't happen again? I can't save the world. No one person is here to save the world. A lot of times we think that we're supposed to save the world, and then we fall short of that and they're like, oh, we suck. No, you're just supposed to create a ripple. You impact one person, that person impacts another person. It spreads like this wave. And I can't control the wave. I don't care where the wave goes. All I know is that I create the ripple, I plant the seed, I, give them the wisdom that I know, that I share, let them tap into their own wisdom, create their fruit for other people to partake, and then enjoy the journey of how it unfolds. A lot of times we try to control things, and the things that we can control, it's like we rely so much on thinking. And in this, it requires more trusting. In this, it requires faith and inspired action beyond getting rid of the noise that other people will put in your ears, and staying focused and being intentional on what you're called to do. People weren't given the same visions. That's why other people might not be able to understand whatever vision you or calling you may have on your life. And that's okay. It just wasn't for them.
Yeah. And one of the things I do with coaching in session, the whole podcast, is I bring other coaches on, other people who help people, whether it be their mindset, with trauma, with relationships, you name it, right? Someone who helps someone. Because my goal is to help 2 billion people in the world. Now, I know I can't do it myself. You said it, right? It's like creating that ripple. So I bring people on who have a knowledge base, who has a wisdom set, who can help people in some way. Because what I say to someone might resonate with them more than if you said it to them. And vice versa. You can resonate with someone more than if I said it to them, right? Everyone has a different wavelength per se, right? If we wanted to look at energy, if we wanted to look at, just the verbiage of how someone speaks, are they more kind? Are they more affectionate? Are they more demanding, right? Everyone is going to require a different type of touch per se. And is in teaching too, right? What type of learner are you, right? Are you auditory, visual, kinesthetic? That is going to be similar to finding a coach for you, because you're going to find a coach that you say, wow, this is my coach, right? They're making me feel like I never felt before. There's no harm in trying a coach for a month, buying a program and checking it out, see if it works. I know people who have went to Tony Robbins and they say it wasn't for them, but then they'll work with me and they'll say, this is more my speed. It's not to say that Tony Robbins isn't amazing, right? He has a different way of coaching. You have a different way of coaching, right? It's not a bad thing. It's just you have to find a coach that is going to resonate the most with you. And that's why I bring coaches on, so people can go to my interview tab. They can go to the podcast and they can say, all right, let me listen to this person. Wow, this person I resonate with. And it's not about the money, right? Because I know when I die, I can't bring the money with me. So yeah, I can live a very plush life, but that's not what I want. To be honest, if I can live in a cabin in the woods with a dog, I would do that, but I can't. So right now, I'm just focusing on how can I propel what my final goal is and to help the whole entire world. I can't do it by myself. So that's why I bring coaches all around the world internationally. You can be from Europe, you can be from Africa, you can be from South America. It doesn't matter where you come from. As long as you have a positive message, I want you on. I want you to speak your truth. I want you to say what you went through, what you're doing about it, and how people can benefit from your teachings, because that's more powerful than saying, well, I accomplished this in my life and now I'm successful. Well, what does that do for someone who is going through the same things you went through? There's no guidance now. Many people look around for a quick fix, but they can't find it. I would rather offer them a person who has walked the path that they are going to be walking on, and then to dissect what they like, what they don't like, and then create their own guide toward their success or their future. Because you can simply follow me and be successful, but are you fulfilled? Right? Just because you do what I say, just because you get a good, strong mindset, it might not be exactly what you want in life. Many people don't even take the time out to realize, what do they want in life? What do they want to accomplish? Many people are stuck in a dead end job where they go to work on Monday, they hate Monday, they wait for Friday, TJF Friday, they turn up on Saturday, and Sunday they try to calm down and meditate. How can I get through this week again? And they do that until 65 and they die. But what have they accomplished? There's so many of those people who just take what the world gives them rather than going out and making the world their playground, in the sense of they can do whatever they want. They have that freedom, but they choose to stay in the job that they're in. They choose to stay in unhealthy relationships, or they don't push themselves. It's a whole effect where people have forgotten how strong they are. Our culture, Blacks, we forgot that we were once king and queens. And now we only fight about, oh, we were slaves. Why not think about when we were king and queens? We have that negative mindset. We have that negative outlook. Negativity weighs more than positivity. So if we can look at the negative, then we can say, well, we have something to fight for. We can be a victim, and we can allow our emotions to reign true, because our emotions should be our truest self, right? But if we really dive deep into our mind, we can understand that our emotions are not as powerful as our mind. Because if you think about it, if someone calls you a derogative term, right, that's going to enact an emotional response. What's a higher response than that? Understanding your mind, saying, okay, I understand this person said this. How are they feeling? Are they upset? What did I do? Could I have upset them in some way? Do I need to apologize, right? We're not just allowing our emotions to run rampant. And that comes back to we're in control of our actions. So yes, we can yell at someone. We can fight back when we feel like we have been done wrong. But it's more powerful to say, I understand, right? And many people don't have that cordial type of thinking anymore. Many people are so rampant to start up a fight and to defend themselves. I don't need to be defended, right? Because I know the truth, and many people need to be accepted, that peer acceptance. If I'm not accepted by my peers, then what's really going on? To be honest, if the world was against me, I would still be A-okay. But that's a mindset thing. Many people want to fit in the crowd. Many people want to be trending. Many people want to be accepted and loved and appreciated. And I'm not saying that those aren't good feelings, but at the same time, you should be the person who loves and appreciates you more than anyone else in the world. Because if you can't find that love and appreciation for you, you're going to have a difficult time pushing every single day, because every day is going to be a challenge. Every day is going to be a struggle, especially when you're on the right path, especially when you're going to a higher self. Many people, like I said, they want good things in their life, but they're not willing to put in the work. So we have to start to get in the mindset of being ready to put in the work, right? And the work you do is getting people in the mindset of saying, hey, let's get to work, right? Regardless of what has happened in your life, let's get to work, right? Regardless of what could happen, let's get to work. Because once we get to work, then we can start to make progress. So one of the so one of the last things I wanted to ask you is, of course, where can people find you? How powerful is it to finally realize that you're the person who creates all your dreams, who makes all your dreams come true, who creates your destiny, who creates your future? I mean, we can keep going on, the infinity generations.
Right.
How powerful is that? Let's talk about that for a second.
Can I just touch on a little bit of
what of course, yeah.
Because that was so powerful. And I wanted to just highlight that. So it was interesting. I remember getting stuck in the business early on, maybe like a couple years in. And someone said, create a vision board, create a vision board, create a vision board. And I'm like, I don't even know how to do that. What in the world is that? Blah, blah, blah. And then somebody told me, oh, Heather, it's just 3 simple steps. You get a board, you get some magazines, you get some glue and some scissors, put some music on and go to town. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, that's quite simple. So I created this first vision board, and immediately it brought instant clarity and instant just knowing the way forward. But here was what was on the vision board that had made all the difference. It said prosperity powered by partnership, meaning that we're not called to go this battle alone. Every person has a piece to the masterpiece. Every person has the wisdom, the collective wisdom. That's why I love, what you're doing on the show. I know that there's so many different personalities, so many different things that come when it comes to coaching. This is actually one of the reasons that led me to put together a series on the power of coaching, where I brought all these coaches together and they're talking about their stories and sharing what their perspective of coaching is. And, it's so powerful because the reality is we think that we're an island, but we need each other. We need to be able to span the collective, because I would rather impact more than 1 million lives than make more than $1 million. And I'm sure that you're that same way, where there's this calling about, it's about getting the message out there, not just and I'm sure that even after every single one of these shows, like I started a show too, where I'd bring other coaches on. Would love to have you on our show also. Mm-hmm. And it was just about there's so much beautiful wisdom when listening to other people. And so I want to just basically highlight that, because a lot of times we feel like we can be in an asylum. And again, it is a mindset. It is a mindset about like a lack or finite mindset, or seeing the abundance and prosperity and what's possible for all. To answer your question about how important is it, you mentioned the word freedom. It's crucial. It's crucial to be able to know that you are the master of your fate and the captain of your ship. You have the ability to control how your life goes. You have the ability to break free from unwanted behaviors, limiting beliefs, anything that you feel like is preventing you, breaking every chain of total success. That part that you had talked about with our community, right? The mental health crisis is going on there, and how we focus so much on slavery, but we don't focus on, that when we were prosperous, when there was so much entrepreneurship, when there was so much creation of just unlimited potential and unlimited businesses. And it's absolutely right. See, a lot of times we're looking for a fight. And what happens is when we look for a fight, we actually become the thing that we're looking for. So owning your own uniqueness, owning your own greatness, and letting it come from there. We can't pour out from an empty cup. We can't give what we have. Michael, you were exactly on target when you said, if you can't cultivate that love and that strength and understanding for yourself, how can you expect other people to do the same? And that's again, that example of a victim mindset. So when we can take control of our mind, body, soul, and energy, reclaim our power, get clarity on what our calling is, live that calling with purpose and passion, prosperity is just a natural byproduct of that. And that part that you were talking about, where there's so many people that they get up, they go to work, they hate Mondays, they love Fridays, and then they hate Sundays, because it's like one more day before misery again. We're not called to live a life of misery. We're not called to be suffering and struggling and, oh my gosh, what was me? Like, that was not what we are called to have or be or do. And it comes from who we are. So if you are listening to this and you're like, I don't like the way that my life is going, any area, so that's when I talk about life harmony. It's about creating peace on all sides, because what could happen in one area can bleed into the other, if we ignore it. When we continue to avoid and ignore the things that our heart and our mind are saying, listen to me, listen to this, listen to this. It's just going to continue to it's almost like beating a dead horse, and you'll never get the results that you want. When you reclaim the power of your mind, body, and soul, and you own and understand who you are and what you're called to do in this world, there's nothing greater or nothing better than that. That actually creates total freedom and total success. And it is possible. Heaven on earth is possible for every single person, not just some people, contradictory to, what the world or what society may say. So where can you find me? Anotherlevelliving.com. Connect with us on social media. We got so many awesome free gifts there. We do events like we have a Freedom Friday show. We're also on this message like Michael, and I'm just so glad that we connected today because it really is about prosperity and empowerment and freedom for all.
Mm-hmm. I encourage everyone to reach out to Dr. Heather Tucker, go to her website, check out her stuff. You have a podcast, right? So to check out that, a huge amount of wisdom today in this episode from, two wonderful coaches, of course, but we have to understand something. The journey to the best you requires you to want to go on that journey. I can't force you to do anything. Dr. Heather can't force you to go on that journey. You have to say, I want something better in my life. And then, of course, if you listen to my podcast enough, my motivational videos enough, if you listen or read any of the content from Dr. Heather, you're going to find the same thing is true. You're going to find out the reason why you should push, why you should wake up. Because if you just simply go through the world tiptoeing around, you're only going to make it safely to death. So we wanted to make sure we can start to live more profoundly and not be afraid. All right, Dr. Heather Tucker, everyone. Thank you all for watching the interview. Thank you to my guest. And of course, please share, like, comment, and subscribe to show your support to the podcast. Join the community, join the conversation. I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone, take care.